Good evening, dear friends. I'm glad you're here. It means more than I can say, knowing you choose to spend part of your evening in this little corner of stories. You could be anywhere else, but you are here, and I am grateful. This is our time together, a quiet moment, a safe space where imagination has room to walk. So let me thank you first. Thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting. Thank you for being part of this growing circle of curious minds. If you haven't yet, you may wish to subscribe. That way, you never miss when a new tale unfolds. Each week we open another door, and behind it waits something strange, something curious, something worth remembering. Tonight is no different. The story we share is not simply words on a page. It is a journey, one of footsteps in the dark, locked rooms, and whispers no one dares admit aloud. At first glance, it all begins in the most ordinary way. Guests arriving. A carriage rattling down a muddy road. A house waiting on the moors. Dinner prepared. Polite smiles exchanged. It could be any weekend gathering. It could be laughter around a fire, wine poured into glasses, the comfort of company in stormy weather. But stories, as you know, rarely stop at comfort. Not here. Not with us. Look closely at those smiles. One hides nerves, another hides knowledge, and someone hides far more than that. The storm outside will pound on the windows. But the real storm, the one that matters, brews inside those walls. Secrets walk among the guests. And once secrets begin to walk, they never walk alone. So let us take our first step together. Into the hall, where muddy footprints have already marked the stone. Into the drawing room, where voices sound calm, but eyes shift away too quickly. Into the story that waits. Because what starts as a pleasant evening will not stay pleasant for long. And when the truth comes to light, my friends, you may wish the evening had never begun. The road narrowed. Mud splashed against the wheels. The horses snorted, fighting the climb. Inside the carriage, two figures braced themselves. Tommy Beresford, Tuppence Beresford, husband and wife. Partners in more than marriage. Tuppence steadied her hat with one gloved hand. Tommy, if this driver rattles us any harder, we'll arrive in pieces. Tommy grinned faintly. I've faced worse rides in France. Still, I'd prefer we not break our necks before we even see our hosts. Lightning cut the sky. For an instant, the land stretched bare and bleak. Heather, stone walls, endless emptiness, and then the house. Black stone rising from the hill, windows glowing faintly, tall chimneys clawing at the clouds. Tuppence leaned closer to the glass. It looks more like a fortress than a home. The driver pulled hard on the reins. The carriage jolted to a halt before an oak door studded with iron. Rain hammered down. Water streamed across the steps. And there, plain to see, muddy footprints. Fresh. Deep. 3 sets at least. Tommy frowned. The storm only just began, which means someone arrived or left just minutes ago. Tuppence finished. The heavy door creaked open. A butler appeared. Tall, angular, severe. Mr. and Mrs. Beresford. His voice clipped, precise. I am Grimby. Lord and Lady Blackmoor await you. He did not smile. He did not bow. He simply stared, as though their presence were an inconvenience. Tommy helped Tuppence down. The rain stung their faces. She whispered, I don't like the look of him. Tommy whispered back, a butler that unfriendly is either loyal beyond measure or hiding far too much. They followed Grimby up the steps. The storm roared behind them. The door shut with a heavy thud. Inside, the hall stretched wide. Wood paneling darkened with age, tapestries sagging with dust, the smell of beeswax and smoke. But another scent lingered. Sweet, floral, perfume. Odd here, in a hall meant for hunting trophies and old portraits. Your coats, if you please, Grimby said. Tommy passed his over. But as he turned, his sharp eyes caught something. Near the threshold, half hidden against the stone, a scrap of paper, crumpled, damp, dropped in haste. Tommy bent as if to brush his boot. He picked it up quietly, slipped it into his pocket before Grimby looked back. Tuppence arched an eyebrow. Tommy gave the smallest nod. Already, before dinner, before greetings, before names were exchanged, a clue lay in his hand. Whatever waited in this house had begun long before they arrived. And outside, the storm pounded harder. The drawing-room glowed warmer than the hall, fire on the hearth, shadows dancing across Persian rugs. Two hosts waited. Lord Blackmoor, hair silver before its time, eyes kind but heavy with worry. Lady Blackmoor, younger, beautiful, but her smile trembled at the edges. "Welcome," she said. Her hand shook as she poured sherry. "We are so glad you came. The storm has been dreadful." Tommy bowed politely. Tuppence returned the smile, watching closely. Every flicker, every hesitation. Around the room the guests gathered. Sir Julian Hartley, tall, immaculate suit, smile sharp as glass, but his eyes never softened. Miss Eliza Fenwick, the cousin, mousy hair, quiet voice, bending over old papers as if the world beyond them did not exist. Captain Mortimer, soldier's bearing, broad shoulders, piercing eyes. He stood near the window as if guarding it. And Mrs. Carroll, neighbor from the village, confident, too confident. Her gaze swept the room like a hawk. She missed nothing. Polite words floated back and forth. Compliments, weather, but beneath the chatter weight, a strain that could not be disguised. Then the servant entered. William, barely 20, gloves twisted in nervous fingers. His voice cracked. "Dinner at 7, ma'am." Lady Blackmoor nodded. Quickly. "Yes, William. Thank you." Relief washed her face, too great for such a small message. Tuppence leaned toward Tommy. "Notice the boy's hands." He murmured back, shaking like leaves, not from the storm. As the room settled, Tuppence's sharp eyes caught something else. Near the stairs, a tall cabinet, glass-fronted, locked tight. Inside gleamed daggers, small weapons, odd relics, too carefully guarded, too firmly shut. She whispered, "Tommy, that case isn't for display, it's for hiding." The firelight flickered across the glass. Daggers gleamed in the glow, and the locked cabinet stood silent, as though it kept a secret no one dared name. The dinner bell rang low, not cheerful, more like a warning. Guests drifted toward the small dining room. Chairs scraped. Silver gleamed under candlelight. Lady Blackmoor moved between them, smiling, speaking. But her hands betrayed her. Every glass she lifted shook. Every plate she touched rattled faintly. Tuppence leaned close to Tommy. "Watch her fingers." He nodded. "She fears more than a storm." Sir Julian settled into his chair. Smooth, confident. He raised his glass and said lightly, "An isolated manor, a storm outside, strangers gathered. One almost expects a murder." Laughter followed, forced, thin. Lady Blackmoor nearly dropped her fork. "Please, Sir Julian, what a dreadful thing to say." He smiled again. "Just an observation, but such settings do make the imagination wander." Captain Mortimer cleared his throat. "Best not tempt fate. Old houses have ears." Mrs. Carroll chuckled, sharp. "And secrets, Captain. Never forget secrets." The room shifted. Conversation stalled. Only the fire popped in the grate. Tommy's eyes moved from face to face, Sir Julian watching too closely, Miss Fenwick avoiding every glance, eyes buried in her folded napkin, Mrs. Carroll smiling too hard, and Lady Blackmoor, her hand trembled. Again, as she lifted her glass, Tuppence whispered, "She's hiding something." Tommy replied softly, "Or protecting someone." The butler, Grimby, entered silently. He poured wine without expression, but when he set the decanter down, Tommy noticed the faintest mark across his cuff. A smear, brown, mud, perhaps, or something worse. Before he could speak, thunder cracked, loud, so loud it shook the window panes. The candles flickered. One guttered out, then darkness. A sudden blackout. Chairs scraped. A gasp rang from the table, and for a heartbeat, no one moved. Only the storm raged outside. The blackout held. No light, only the storm. Then sparks. A match struck. Grimby's hand steady, flame-touching wick. Candles flared back, one by one. Faces reappeared in the glow, tense, too pale, too watchful. Lady Blackmoor forced a smile. Old houses. They protest in storms. Nothing unusual. Her voice was thin. Her eyes said otherwise. Before anyone could answer, the door creaked. William, the young footman, slipped inside. Dripping wet, breathless. He clutched a silver tray. On it, an envelope. Damp, smudged. "Begging pardon, my lord," William stammered. "A boy from the village delivered this, at the kitchen door, then ran off into the storm." Lord Blackmoor frowned. "Delivered? In this weather?" He took the envelope. Plain paper, no seal, only his name, scrawled in jagged script. The room leaned forward. The fire hissed. He broke the seal, unfolded the sheet, read silently. His face drained, hands shook. Lady Blackmoor whispered, "Charles, what is it?" His lips moved slowly. He read aloud. "Beware the storm. Beware the secrets that walk among you. What was hidden shall be revealed. What was thought safe shall be questioned. The past has many eyes. Debts never die." Silence. Thick. Heavy. A log collapsed in the fire. Sparks shot upward. Sir Julian let out a laugh. Short. Nervous. Melodrama. A prank. Some village boy playing ghost. Tommy watched him closely. The man's knuckles were white against his glass. Captain Mortimer spoke low. Who would risk such weather for a prank? And how would they know the names of those inside this house? Miss Fenwick's voice cracked. The handwriting. It looks familiar. Everyone turned. She shrank back. I've seen something like it. In the family papers. Her cheeks flushed. Her breath quickened. Mrs. Carroll leaned in, sharp. "Which papers, my dear? Letters? Wills? Or something you shouldn't have touched at all?" Miss Fenwick shook her head. "I can't be sure." Her hand trembled against the table. Tuppence whispered to Tommy, "She knows more." He nodded. "And someone here knows she knows." Lady Blackmoor pressed her napkin to her lips. "This is nonsense. Old stories. Nothing more." But her glass slipped. Water spilled across the cloth. The storm boomed again. The house groaned, and Miss Fenwick swayed suddenly. Her eyes fluttered, her voice faint. I need air." She staggered to her feet. Chairs scraped. Her napkin fell, crumpled on the floor. "Miss Fenwick," Lady Blackmoor cried. But the young woman stumbled toward the door, pale, shaking, ready to collapse, and behind her, the cryptic note still lay on the table, a warning none could ignore. The guests returned to their seats. Candles flickered. The storm rattled the windows. Lady Blackmoor raised her glass. To friendship and safety in this dreadful weather. Her smile strained, her voice thin. They drank, or pretended to. Conversation resumed. Thin strings of chatter, snapping easily. Sir Julian leaned back. "Remarkable soup, my lady. Your cook deserves praise." But his spoon barely touched the bowl. Mrs. Carroll chuckled. "Yes, though I trust no one adds their own seasoning." Her eyes glinted toward the salt cellar. The joke fell flat. Captain Mortimer cleared his throat. He spoke of military years, but his gaze never left Sir Julian, every word measured. Tommy smiled politely, yet his hand rested lightly on the table, testing tremors, measuring silences. Tuppence asked Lady Blackmoor about the village, the weather, the neighbours, each question simple, each answer vague. Then an everyday detail broke the mask. A glass toppled. Water spilled across linen, not by accident. Sir Julian's elbow brushed it too easily. "Clumsy of me," he said, but his eyes darted quick, sharp to Miss Fenwick's papers beside her plate. William hurried forward, hands shaking, brush and cloth clattering, his face pale. Tommy noted how the boy's pocket bulged, something heavy, not cutlery, not cloth, Something hidden. Tuppence caught it too. She whispered, "He carries something he shouldn't." Tommy nodded slightly. "Question is, for whom?" Dinner limped on. Banter forced. Smiles tighter than the storm's grip outside. Then it happened. Small, quiet, but unmistakable. A folded scrap slipped to the floor, fell just beneath the tablecloth, near Tuppence's chair. She froze. Her eyes lowered. The paper lay waiting. Captain Mortimer spoke loudly, drawing attention. "I say, these old houses, do they always creak like this?" Everyone turned their heads. Everyone but Tuppence. Her hand moved slowly, deliberately. She drew the note into her lap. Unread, unopened, but heavy with meaning. She glanced at Tommy. He caught the signal. He gave the smallest nod. A secret had been delivered, not to the host, not to the guests, but to her. And under the table, hidden from all but her husband's eye, Tuppence clenched the note tight. The storm growled louder, the manor shuddered, and the message waited, ready to change everything. Dinner ended at last. Relief passed around the table like wine, but not comfort. Never comfort. Lady Blackmoor excused herself to speak with the cook. Guests drifted toward the drawing room. Sherry poured. Polite words forced. Tommy stood near the fire. Tuppence wandered, her eyes sharp, restless. Then she saw it again. The cabinet, tall, glass-fronted, locked with brass, inside rows of daggers, knives, odd trinkets, blades polished, though never used. She stopped before it, tilted her head, her voice low. "Tommy, why guard these so tightly?" He joined her, hands behind his back. "Not weapons for display, my dear, weapons meant to conceal." Miss Fenwick looked up from her papers, her voice barely audible. "They've been here for years. Lord Blackmoor collects them, that's all." But her eyes betrayed her. Quick, nervous, flickering away too fast. Sir Julian strolled over. "Curious, aren't they? Relics. Family heirlooms. Harmless." His tone was smooth. Too smooth. Mrs. Carroll laughed. "Harmless? Daggers in a locked case? You must forgive me if I doubt that." Captain Mortimer grunted. "In the army, nothing locked is harmless." Tuppence traced a finger along the brass lock. "It isn't just the daggers," she murmured. "Something else lies inside." Tommy caught the look in her eyes. She was right. The case was more than a display. It was a hiding place. Across the room, Grimby watched silently, still as stone, his gaze fixed on the cabinet and on anyone who lingered near it. William passed through carrying a tray. His hand brushed the lock, too lightly, almost a caress. Tuppence's eyes narrowed. "The boy knows," Tommy whispered back. "Then he knows more than he dares speak." The storm raged outside. Wind beat against the shutters. But inside, silence grew. Only the fire crackled, only eyes moved. The cabinet stood at the center of it all. A mute witness, a silent guard. Tommy cleared his throat. "Perhaps tomorrow Lady Blackmoor will allow us a closer look." No answer. Lady Blackmoor had not. Returned. The silence pressed harder. Then, a sound. Low, deliberate. Footsteps. In the corridor beyond. Not hurried, not fearful. Measured. But no one was there. Every face turned. Every ear strained. The corridor stretched dark and empty. Yet the footsteps continued. Closer. Slower. Then gone. The guests stared. No one spoke. Not one dared. And the locked cabinet gleamed in the firelight, as if waiting. The drawing-room air grew heavy. Too many eyes. Too many secrets. Sir Julian lit a cigarette. The smoke curled lazily. He smiled without warmth. "Well, storms make a night memorable, don't they?" Mrs. Carroll laughed once. Hard. Unkind. "Memorable isn't always pleasant." Lady Blackmoor returned at last, her cheeks pale, her hands still trembling. "Dinner was well served, I trust?" No one answered. Not honestly, then chaos. Miss Fenwick rose from her chair. Too quickly. Her hand caught the edge of the table. Wine glasses rattled. The carpet slipped beneath her foot. She cried out, fell hard to the floor. The room erupted. Chairs scraped. Guests rushed forward. Papers flew from her lap, scattered across the rug like autumn leaves. Tommy knelt beside her. Tuppence, look at these. Letters, old envelopes, fragments of legal drafts, words half visible in the firelight. Estate, debt, claim, witness. Mrs. Carroll bent low, eager. Where did she get these? Sir Julian snapped. They're private, family papers. Captain Mortimer's voice was sharp. Then why hide them under the table? Lady Blackmoor wrung her hands. Please, don't quarrel. Eliza. Oh, Eliza. But Miss Fenwick did not stir. Her face pale against the rug. Her breathing shallow. Tuppence brushed back the scattered papers, then stopped. Her eyes caught something else. Not paper, not letters. Something harder, shiny. She drew it free. A key. Small. Brass. Scratched with age. Tied to a faded red. Ribbon. She held it in her palm. Her eyes flicked to Tommy. The cabinet. He gave the faintest nod. Yes, the lock. Grimby stepped forward suddenly. His shadow loomed over them. That key. It belongs with me. Tommy closed his fist over it. Strange place for a servant's key, don't you think? The butler's eyes hardened, but he said nothing. The storm roared. Thunder shook the windows again. The guests froze in silence. On the carpet, Miss Fenwick lay motionless, her hand limp, her papers scattered like fallen leaves. And from her sleeve, unnoticed by most, something slipped, a scrap of folded cloth, dark, stained. Tuppence's eyes widened. Blood. The unconscious woman hid more than secrets. She carried proof. Miss Fenwick was carried upstairs. Lady Blackmoor fluttered after her. The others lingered, whispering, uneasy. Tommy touched Tuppence's arm. The library, he said quietly. She nodded. Of course. They slipped away, down a side passage, into the Manor's heart. The library loomed. Tall shelves, leather volumes, dust thick in the corners. Tuppence lit a lamp. The glow spread low across the desk. Stacks of papers, unsorted, uncared for. Tommy opened the first drawer. Receipts, letters, dates long past. Tuppence tugged open another. Her breath caught. Look at this. A packet of envelopes, tied in black ribbon, unmarked, unusual. She pulled one free. The ink had bled slightly, but the words were clear enough. Pay or be exposed. I know what you did. I know who paid you. The truth cannot remain hidden forever. Tommy whistled low. Blackmail. Tuppence opened a second. The hand was the same. The will cannot stand. The heir is not rightful. I will prove it. She dropped the letter back. Tommy, this isn't new. Someone has been threatening the family for months. He tapped the desk, which explains tonight's note. Not just theatre. Continuation. Tuppence moved to a public smaller drawer. Locked. She tested it. The brass held firm. Tommy tried the small brass key from Fenwick's ribbon. It clicked. Opened. Inside a will. Not one copy. 3. Signed. Dated. But all different. Different heirs. Different amounts. Different names. Tuppence frowned. Forgery. Or desperation. Either way, it's a nest of lies. Tommy scanned the pages. Noticed the witnesses. Sir Julian. And Grimby. The butler's name sat inked in bold hand, unmistakable. Tuppence whispered, they all profit, depending which will survives. They spread the pages across the desk. 3 wills, 3 versions of truth. The storm pounded the windows. The lamp sputtered. Shadows stretched long across the walls. Tommy leaned close. Every guest has a reason to fear these papers. Every one of them. Tuppence nodded slowly. And everyone will deny it. Then she froze. Her head tilted, her eyes fixed on the door. Tommy heard it too. A sound. Slow. Steady. Footsteps. Just beyond the door. Not hurried. Not clumsy. Someone listening. Someone waiting. Tommy blew out the lamp. Darkness swallowed the room. The footsteps stopped. The library door creaked open. Empty corridor. No footsteps now, only echoes. Tuppence whispered, "They'll return for the papers." Tommy nodded. "Then we move before they do." They slipped through the back hall, past the kitchen, out into the storm. The rain stung sharp. Wind tore at their coats. The manor loomed behind, black against the sky. Tuppence raised her lantern. The light wavered across the ground. Stone steps, mud, footprints. Not the neat tracks from earlier. These were fresh, deep, pacing back and forth. "Too many," Tommy muttered. "Someone has been circling." They followed. The prints led toward the stables, past the broken wall, into the sodden grass. Then something darker than mud. Tuppence knelt. Her hand touched the stone. Wet. Sticky. She pulled back sharply. Red streaks glistened. "Blood," she whispered. Tommy scanned the shadows. No accident. Someone was hurt here, or worse. The wind howled. Rain beat harder. Tuppence's lantern flickered. The light caught on something half buried near the wall. A satchel. Leather. Soaked through. Tommy tugged it free. The clasp broken. Inside papers. Loose notes. A ledger with torn pages. A name repeated again and again. Sir Julian. Tuppence's jaw tightened. "He's tied to this. More than he admits." Tommy flipped another page. Numbers. Large sums. Payments. All marked received. The satchel dripped rainwater. And something else. The faint scent of perfume. The same perfume from the hall. Tuppence looked toward the manor. Lady Blackmoor. Tommy shook his head. Or someone using her scent to mislead. Thunder cracked. The lantern nearly died. Tommy pulled Tuppence closer to the wall. The wind screamed. Then stillness. Not the storm. Not the rain. Something else. Eyes. Watching. Both felt it. That weight. That unseen presence. Tommy lowered his voice. "Don't look quick. Someone is near." Tuppence stiffened. Her gaze flicked left. A shadow moved. Just beyond the hedges. Not lightning. Not wind. A figure. Watching them. Silent. Waiting. The satchel dripped between them. The blood glistened on stone. And the storm raged louder. The storm eased by dawn. Not calm. Only quieter. The house groaned with the weight of silence. Tuppence moved through the corridor. Her shoes muffled on the thick rugs. Doors lined both sides. Most closed. One open. She peered inside. The bed, crumpled, unslept in. Pillows untouched. Covers folded sharp. A room too neat for a stormy night. Tommy joined her. "Who's missing?" She pointed. "Captain Mortimer. His boots gone. His case gone. The wardrobe half empty." Tommy frowned. "Men don't pack during blackouts." He walked out while others slept. They searched the desk. No notes. No signs of haste. Only silence. Downstairs the guests gathered. Faces pale. Eyes searching. Lady Blackmoor wrung her hands. "Captain Mortimer has not come down." William checked his room. It was empty. Sir Julian barked a laugh. Perhaps he tired of theatrics. Some men slip away rather than face another dull dinner. Mrs. Carroll's eyes narrowed. "You think he fled? In that storm?" "Nonsense." Miss Fenwick whispered. He spoke to me last night. Only briefly. He said he feared something. He said someone was watching him." The room chilled. Tommy exchanged a glance with Tuppence. They had felt it too. Grimby appeared, expression rigid. "I checked the stables. One horse is missing." A ripple went through the group. One horse gone. One guest gone. Lady Blackmoor pressed her handkerchief to her lips. "This is dreadful. Simply dreadful." Tommy asked quietly. "Did anyone hear the door in the night?" No one answered. No one admitted. Only silence pressed back. Tuppence turned to William. The young servant twisted his gloves. He stammered, I heard footsteps on the back stairs, but I thought perhaps it was Grimby." Grimby's jaw tightened. "I did not leave my quarters." The weight in the room deepened. Each face held suspicion. Each eye avoided another. Tommy spoke low. "If Mortimer left, he left for a reason. And if he did not, Someone made sure he would not return. They went outside. The storm had churned the ground to mud. Footprints crisscrossed. Horse tracks cut through the grass. Tuppence's lantern swayed. She stopped suddenly, her hand pointed down, near the wall, caught on a jagged stone, a strip of cloth, dark, torn, edges frayed with force. Tommy lifted it carefully, not weather-worn, fresh, and the fabric still warm to the touch. The morning broke grey, mist clung to the windows. The storm had passed, but the house still held its weight. The guests gathered in the breakfast room, silent, uneasy, every eye darting, every hand restless. Tommy stood near the window. Tuppence sat at the table, watching faces. Waiting. Sir Julian stirred his tea. Clink, clink, too loud, too steady. At last he sighed. Well, we may as well speak plainly. The others looked up. Lady Blackmoor froze, cup trembling. Miss Fenwick drew in a sharp breath. Sir Julian leaned back. Yes, I knew the captain. Knew him long before last night. We had dealings. Business. He invested in ventures I arranged, and he lost money. Quite a lot of it. Mrs. Carroll's eyes narrowed. You mean you ruined him? Sir Julian smiled thinly. Investments are never certain. But he blamed me. Said I cheated him. Nonsense, of course. But men cling to their grudges. Lady Blackmoor whispered, You should have told us. Sir Julian shrugged. What good would it do? He threatened me. Yes, letters, ugly things. But I dismissed them. Tuppence spoke softly. Letters like the ones we found in the library? His eyes flicked toward her. A pause. Then another sigh. So, you've been searching. Well, then you know. He thought he could expose me. He thought he had proof. But business is full of sharp words. They don't always mean murder. Miss Fenwick shook her head. No, it wasn't just money. He told me last night. He said he knew something about the will, about who truly inherits. He said the truth would destroy one of you. The room tightened. Lady Blackmoor gasped. Mrs. Carroll leaned forward, her voice sharp. And which one of us, dear cousin? Miss Fenwick faltered. I don't know. He didn't say. He only looked at Sir Julian. And then at you. The silence deepened. The fire popped in the grate. Tommy studied Sir Julian. The man's face was calm. Too calm. Like a mask worn too long. Tuppence whispered, He's hiding more. Sir Julian sat down. His cup. The china clattered on the saucer. I'll admit this much. The captain and I quarrelled. Yes, over money, and yes, over papers in this very house. But you should understand something. He paused, every eye fixed on him. His smile returned, cold. That's not the whole story. The silence stretched after Sir Julian's words. Every face watched him, every heart beat faster. Then the door opened. William entered. The young servant. Head bowed, hands twisting his gloves. Lady Blackmoor turned sharply. Where have you been? You were told to stay in the kitchen. William swallowed. I was, ma'am. Only, I heard voices. Raised voices. Tommy's eyes narrowed. Whose voices? The boy hesitated, shifting from foot to foot, eyes darting to Grimby, the butler. Grimby's glare was ice. William, choose your words carefully. Tuppence leaned forward. Don't be afraid. Just tell us. The boy's lip trembled. I went near the library. Last night. After the candles went out, I thought I saw a light, so I listened. The room stiffened. Lady Blackmoor whispered, You disobeyed the rules. Yes, ma'am, William said, voice shaking. But I heard Captain Mortimer. He was arguing. With Sir Julian. Angry words. About money. About papers. He said he had proof. Sir Julian slammed his hand on the table. Lies! William flinched. No, sir. I swear it. They quarrelled. The captain said he'd make everything known by morning. Mrs. Carroll hissed. And now he's gone. The weight of her words pressed against the walls. Tuppence's eyes stayed fixed on William. And was that all you heard? The boy hesitated. looked again at Grimby. The butler's face gave nothing away. William's voice dropped to a whisper. There was another voice. After, in the corridor. I didn't see who. But I heard them speaking soft. To the captain. A meeting. A promise. Tommy's brow furrowed. What kind of promise? The boy shook his head. I couldn't hear it all. Only a few words. Something about inheritance. And a warning. A warning not to speak again. Miss Fenwick clutched her papers tight. Her breath quickened. Lady Blackmoor pressed her handkerchief to her lips. Tommy stepped closer. And when was this? Exactly? The boy's eyes widened. His hands twisted tighter. He spoke so low the room had to strain to hear. Midnight. A shiver moved through the guests. Chairs creaked. No one breathed. Tommy's voice was steady. You saw someone at midnight? The boy nodded once. Yes, sir, I did. The fire cracked sharply. Outside, the wind moaned through the chimneys, and the clock on the mantel ticked louder, as if counting down to the moment when secrets could no longer stay hidden. The word hung in the air. Midnight. A time that pressed on every face. Sir Julian sneered. A servant's fancy. He heard nothing. But William stood firm, eyes wide, voice trembling. I swear it. The captain met someone. He wasn't alone. Tommy exchanged a glance with Tuppence. Too much fit. Too neatly. Then Miss Fenwick gave a cry. My papers. She scrambled to the table, her leather folio, empty. The pages she clutched last night gone. Gasps filled the room. Lady Blackmoor's hand flew to her chest. How could they vanish? Miss Fenwick turned on Sir Julian. You took them. He laughed coldly. Really, my dear, while you were fainting on the floor. Clever of me. Mrs. Carol snapped. You're quick to mock, Hartley, but your hands aren't clean. You knew those papers mattered. You knew the captain's threat had weight. Grimby stepped forward. His voice cut sharp. No guest entered the library this morning. I locked the doors myself. Tommy's eyes narrowed. Then someone inside this house had another key. The guests erupted, voices clashing, accusations hurled across the firelit room. You were near the cabinet. I saw you by the corridor. You had motive more than anyone. Tuppence raised her voice above the chaos. Stop. Think. If the papers are gone, they're not destroyed. They're hidden. Miss Fenwick clutched her hands. They proved the truth, that the inheritance is false, that the will was forged. Someone here has everything to lose. Sir Julian's smile was thin as glass. And everything to gain. Tommy studied each face, each mask, each trembling hand. Someone had moved in the night. Someone had taken the evidence from under their noses. Then the lamps flickered. One guttered, another dimmed. Tuppence's eyes widened. Not again. Darkness. The room plunged black. Voices cut off. A chair scraped. A cry rang out. And in the pitch dark, every secret felt closer. The blackout swallowed everything. No light, no shapes, only breath. Then it came. A scream, high, piercing, cutting through the dark. Chairs crashed. Someone stumbled. Another voice shouted. Feet shuffled against the rug. The storm outside raged again. Thunder rolled. Rain hammered the windows. Then silence. Awful silence. Tommy's hand found Tuppence's. Stay close. Her grip tightened. Grimby's voice boomed. Hold still. No one move. Another match struck. Flame hissed. A lamp caught. Light returned in flickers. Faces pale. Eyes wide. Hands trembling. Miss Fenwick clutched her throat. I heard it near the door. Right there. They turned. The doorframe stood empty. Shadows stretched long across the carpet. Lady Blackmoor whispered. Someone screamed, but who? Sir Julian's lips curled. A trick. Someone wants us on edge. No trick, Mrs. Carol snapped. Look. On the rug near the fire, a knife. Long, slim, freshly gleaming, and beside it a smear of blood. Gasps spread. Lady Blackmoor staggered back against the mantel. Her handkerchief dropped from her fingers. Grimby bent slowly. He lifted the knife with care, held it up for all to see. From the cabinet. Tuppence's eyes narrowed. Then it wasn't locked. Not anymore. The room pressed tighter. Every glance sharpened, every silence heavier. Tommy's voice was low. Who left their chair? Who moved when the lights died? No one answered. Eyes shifted. Feet shuffled. Mrs. Carroll's voice cracked. I heard you, Sir Julian. You were near the sideboard. I swear it. He barked a laugh. Ridiculous. I never left my place. Unlike you, Miss Fenwick cried. I heard movement at the window. Someone touched the shutters. Someone trying to escape. Lady Blackmoor covered her face. This house. This dreadful house. Tommy stepped into the center. His gaze swept them all. One of you moved. One of you screamed. And one of you touched that knife. He pointed to the bloodstain. It's proof, but no one admits it. The silence held. Heavy. Suffocating. No one spoke. No one confessed. No one dared. And in that silence, the truth grew sharper, more dangerous. The night dragged heavy, but sleep never came. Tommy paced the corridor. Tuppence followed, lantern in hand. Every creak of the boards made her glance back. This house hides too much, she whispered. Tommy nodded. And it hides it well. They paused at the stairwell. The storm had eased, but the air remained damp, restless. Tommy's eye caught a draught. Cold. From the wall itself. He pressed his hand flat against the paneling. It trembled faintly. Hollow. Tuppence lifted the lantern higher. Her eyes narrowed. There, the carving, see? The edge is worn. He pushed. The panel gave way with a low groan. A narrow gap opened. Darkness yawned inside. A passage, hidden behind the wood. They stepped in. The air smelled of dust and old stone. Cobwebs clung to the corners. Steps descended, steep and uneven. At the bottom, a small chamber spread wide enough for two. Lantern light revealed a table. And on it objects. Tommy leaned close. Papers. Letters. A ledger. Tuppence picked one up. Recognition struck. The same hand, the same threats. Whoever used this room wrote the blackmail notes. Tommy opened the ledger. Inside lists of payments, dates, sums, and names. Sir Julian, Lady Blackmoor, even Grimby. Each name marked with numbers beside it. Debt or profit. Tuppence's voice shook. Every guest is tied to this. Every one of them. She lifted another sheet. A map of the manor. Corridors marked. Stairwells circled. The cabinet noted with a cross. Someone planned every move, she whispered. Tommy's eyes darkened. And used this room to watch. To scheme. To control. He searched further. A drawer beneath the table. Inside small items. A brooch. A handkerchief. A torn glove. Tokens. Evidence kept like trophies. Tuppence's breath caught. She touched the glove. This is Miss Fenwick's. I saw her wear it. Tommy frowned. And this brooch Lady Blackmoor's. She had it last night. The lantern flickered. The silence pressed hard. Tuppence whispered, Whoever hides here has been stealing from them, watching them, playing them against each other. Then, a sound, soft, from the passage above. Footsteps, descending. Tommy's jaw tightened. He closed the ledger. Tuppence stuffed the papers back. The lantern shook in her hand. The steps drew nearer, closer, heavy. A shadow filled the doorway, tall, blocking the exit, and a voice cut through the dark, cold, sharp. What do you think you're doing here? The figure filled the doorway. Sir Julian, eyes sharp, smile, thinner than glass. Well, he drawled. Our sleuths at work, poking where they shouldn't. Tommy straightened. Curious spot for you at this hour. Sir Julian stepped down into the chamber. His gaze slid across the table. The ledger, the brooch, the glove. Nothing escaped him. Old rubbish, he said. Forgotten things. This room is nothing. Tuppence's voice was cool. Then why guard it? Why creep down here alone? He gave a light laugh. To prove I was right. I told you this manor is full of drafts and secrets. Nothing more sinister than that. But his tone cracked. Slightly. Tommy seized it. Funny. You claimed last night you never left your chair when the lights went out. Yet William heard you in the corridor, and now here you are. Sir Julian's jaw twitched. William is a boy, nervous. His word means nothing. Tuppence held up the ledger. And this? Your name fills its pages. Dates, payments, money tied to blackmail. His eyes narrowed. Forgery. Convenient, Tommy said. Everything is forgery when it touches you. Mrs. Carroll's voice rang from the passage above. She had followed. Enough of his dodging. I saw him last night, near the sideboard. He slipped something into his pocket. Sir Julian spun. You lie. Do I? Mrs. Carroll snapped. You swore you never moved. Yet you prowled the room. You touched the shutters. I heard you. Sir Julian's mask cracked further. Colour rose to his cheeks. His smile faltered. Tommy pressed harder. You say you were still. She says you moved. You can't have both. Which is it? Silence, broken only by the drip of rain seeping down the stone wall. Sir Julian tried again. I only rose to steady a lamp. That's all. Tuppence shook her head. Not true. If it were, you'd have said it at once. Instead, you hid and lied. And here you are again, caught in the shadows of a secret room. The chamber seemed smaller, every breath louder. Sir Julian spread his hands. Very well. Yes, I rose, but not to scheme. I was meeting no one. I was only checking on Lady Blackmoor. She fainted before dinner, you recall. I was concerned. Mrs. Carroll's laugh was sharp. You? Concerned? At midnight? When no husband, no doctor, no maid was with her? The silence deepened. All eyes fixed on him. Tommy's voice cut low. If you weren't with her, and she wasn't with you, then who was really with her last night? The manor groaned under the weight of silence. The storm outside had returned, wind tearing at the shutters. Lightning flashed against the windows. Tommy stepped into the drawing room, Tuppence at his side. Behind them, Sir Julian, grim and defiant. Mrs. Carroll, sharp-eyed. Miss Fenwick, pale, clutching her folio as if it might shield her. Lady Blackmoor trembling, her face hidden behind a lace handkerchief. Grimby stood by the fire, stiff as iron. Tommy spoke clearly. Enough wandering shadows. Enough whispers. We gather here together. No one leaves. Not until the truth is laid bare. Sir Julian scoffed. Interrogation in a drawing room? What is this? A play? Tuppence's voice was calm but sharp. Call it what you like, but the walls are closing in. Secrets cannot stand much longer. The air tightened. Every glance was suspicion. Every word weighted like a blade. Tommy turned to Miss Fenwick. You said the captain feared exposure, that he warned someone watched him. Was it you he meant? Her voice cracked. I don't know. He said he held proof. He said by morning everyone would see. And then he was gone. Mrs. Carroll leaned forward, eyes burning. And who profits most from his silence? Ask yourself that, Beresford. Ask it loudly. Her stare swung to Sir Julian. You, he bristled. Convenient accusation. But let us not forget you too would benefit from an altered inheritance. Your name was written in one of those wills. Lady Blackmoor gasped. That's a lie. No, Sir Julian sneered. It is a fact. The storm outside cracked with thunder. The windows rattled. The house shook. Tuppence stepped closer to the fire. She spoke low, to them all. Captain Mortimer's blood stains the stones outside. His satchel was found. His papers tied to each of you. Someone here lured him to silence. Lady Blackmoor cried out, No more. I cannot bear this. Do you not see? We are destroying ourselves. Grimby's deep voice cut through. Better the truth destroy us, my lady, than the lie finish us all. Tommy studied the butler. The man's face unreadable, but his hands clenched too tightly. Tuppence whispered to Tommy, They're breaking. Another push, and one will crack. The storm roared again. The room seemed smaller. The fire hissed, spitting sparks. Then the door opened. All heads turned. William, the young servant, stumbled in, rain dripping from his coat, eyes wide, hands shaking, in his grasp something small. A note, a brass key, and a pocket watch smeared with mud. He looked at Tommy, voice breaking. "Sir, I think you need to see this." The fire snapped, the storm bellowed outside, all eyes fixed on William. Tommy took the objects from the servant's shaking hands. A note, a brass key, a pocket watch, its face cracked, mud clinging to the chain. He set them on the table. "Now we have what we need." Tuppence unfolded the note. Her eyes scanned quickly. Then she read aloud. "The captain would not be silenced. He must be stopped before the wills are found. Meet me by the cabinet at midnight. One mistake, and all is lost." A gasp rippled through the room. Lady Blackmoor pressed a hand to her mouth. Miss Fenwick nearly dropped her folio. Tommy held up the watch. "This was Mortimer's. Found outside, near the blood. He met someone, and that someone took his life. The question is who?" Sir Julian sneered. More theatrics. But Tommy's eyes were steady. "No. Logic. First the wills. 3 versions, each name different, but only one of you had access to all 3. Grimby. Your signature appears as witness on every copy." The butler stiffened. His eyes darkened, but he did not move. "Second," Tommy continued, "the locked cabinet, always guarded. Yet the knife inside was used last night. Only one man held the keys. Again Grimby. The guests turned. Whispers swelled. And third, Tuppence added, her voice cold. The note. It matches the hand of the blackmail letters we found in the hidden room. That room was used by someone with constant freedom in the house. Not a guest. A servant. The butler." Lady Blackmoor gasped. "Grimby? No, it cannot be." Grimby's jaw tightened. His hand gripped the back of a chair until his knuckles whitened. Tommy's voice cut sharper. "You feared the captain. He discovered too much. You arranged to meet him at midnight. You silenced him. You took his satchel, but you dropped the watch, and you left blood on the stones." The fire hissed. The storm thundered. All eyes bore into Grimby. Even William stepped back, pale, trembling. The butler's voice rumbled low. "You think yourselves clever, but you don't know half of it." Tuppence's tone was icy calm. "Then tell us, or admit what you did." Grimby's eyes flicked to the door, to the window, to the cabinet. Then he moved. Quick, too quick for his age. His hand swept the table. The knife clattered free. The room cried out. Tommy lunged forward. Chairs toppled. Lady Blackmoor screamed. And Grimby, the butler, turned sharp and desperate, ready to strike or flee into the storm. The knife never struck. Tommy caught Grimby's wrist. Tuppence pulled the weapon free. The butler fought. Wild, desperate. But the struggle was brief. His strength failed. He collapsed into the chair, breath heavy, eyes burning with fury. The room held silence. Only the storm filled it. At last Grimby spoke. "Yes, I wrote the letters. I guarded the wills. I held their secrets. Why? Because the bound. Blackmoor name was mine to protect, and mine to profit from." Lady Blackmoor whispered through tears. "You betrayed us," he sneered. "You betrayed yourselves. Each of you lived on lies. I only used them. Money, favors, threats. It was easy. Too easy." Miss Fenwick hid her face. Mrs. Carroll shook her head in disgust. Sir Julian said nothing, his eyes on the floor. Tommy's voice was steady. "You silenced the captain because he refused to bend. He threatened to expose you. You couldn't allow that, so you ended him." Grimby's face twisted. "He left me no choice." Tuppence's reply was cold. "There's always a choice." The storm outside softened. Rain slowed. The night surrendered to dawn. By morning, the constable had taken Grimby away. The house sat quiet. Guests withdrawn. The secrets of the Blackmoor estate laid bare. Lady Blackmoor wept softly in her chair. Miss Fenwick clutched her torn glove. Sir Julian poured himself another drink. No one spoke of what came next. Tommy and Tuppence stood together in the hall. Coats ready. The carriage waiting at the door. Tuppence looked back once. That house will never be the same. Tommy nodded. Nor the people in it. Greed destroys more families than war ever could. And secrets. He paused. They never stay buried. She slipped her hand into his. Not when we're around. They stepped out into the grey morning. The air smelled clean after the storm. The moor stretched wide, silent, endless. The driver snapped his reins. The carriage rolled forward. The manor faded behind them. A shadow that would not easily lift. And now, dear friends, our tale is told. Another mystery unraveled. Another secret laid bare. Thank you for walking through the storm with us. For listening. For staying until the end. If you wish to hear more, there will always be another door to open. Another shadow to follow. Another truth waiting to rise. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next story. Until then, good night. And remember, secrets never stay buried.